Well, good evening, everyone. And after the first panel and the richness of the discussion that was there, I think the three of us have a tough task cut out in front of us, but hopefully do justice to the topic. So, firstly, thank you for joining this discussion. I think the topic was more agents in action, and I think some of the topics got discussed in the first panel. So, where we at least thought we will lead this discussion with is a few things. Number one, a lot of people have spoken about automation versus really using agentic AI, which is, AI with agency. And I think that's one of the topics that we would like to explore as to how you are seeing as business builders, where are you really seeing agency coming into picture soon versus maybe further down the road. And at least that we see the world from, we see agentic AI as something that will help solve some of the most hitherto impossible problems that the marketing world, at least, or the retail world is actually seeing. Whether we call it, methodological individualism, which is really n equal to 1 personalization. If that's been a myth that a lot of people have been following for ages, hopefully it becomes a reality and it delivers business value. And the second thing could be, in terms of just, the collective, agents collective, which is multiple agents coming together and at least people talk about it. But let me start first with Rehana, and you have seen multiple, in the retail space, you've actually spent many years covering all the functions. If I would ask you, what are the top 3 areas where you really see the shift from using generative AI, which I think a lot of people are already doing, to really driving agency in the AI insights that people generate? What would those be?
Okay, so thank you so much for having us and for this opportunity. And Siddharth, the question here before we go into that, let me just give you a quick context. So I represent Choithrams, yeah? So we are reinventing ourselves today in the digital space and what we could do from a more traditional retail into what next, okay? So as you know, UAE, yeah, 11 million plus in population, that's what the pie is, right? And today, if you talk about food retail, right, every format, it's just not modern trade and traditional trade anymore, right? There's specialty stores, there's discounters, there's a Russian store, there's a Filipino store, there's specialty stores everywhere, and the share is just, getting split between these. And then comes the e-commerce business, right? And we are competing against an Amazon or aggregator business who are actually tech guys, right? And so it's not like that fair brick and mortar versus the e-commerce business anymore. So now the big question in front of us as retailers is, would AI be the differentiator to make the difference? Because for us, the costs are just increasing every day in terms of operating, yeah? But with the cost going up, yeah, where is it that the efficiency can come in to kind of use AI to be the differentiator to survive? Thrive is again another level of it, to survive, in fact. So with this context, I think coming back to, Siddharth's question, yes, we are deploying AI, and actually there's a phase of learning for us as retailers, yeah, these are small steps and evolving pretty fast, and as the last panel, spoke about, it's evolving really, really fast. So current use of, AI happens. I can give you one use case from our context is for operational excellence. Yeah, so that's again to ensure that what we plan in the stores and how our stores should run and what standards and excellence, is it operating at that level? So we check that. I'll give you one case where the biggest challenge for an FMCG company, which is ready to spend, like your Unilevers, your P&Gs, your Transmits, when they come in, they say that, okay, I need an display implementation in, say, 10 of your stores. But many a time what happens is they're ready to pay for it, yeah? But when it comes to the implementation and compliance, we use AI through our checklist. We have a partner we work with, and through these checklists, we create tasks with AI prompt compliance to see this is a planogram. Have you implemented it? And we give them a tolerance. So 85% planogram compliance on this level of merchandising with price labels, with a point of sale material. If that's followed, we get it back at the click of a button. There's nobody to check compliance because it's all prompts given there. Only if it's compliant, it kind of allows you to take that picture to say, I've completed the task. So it's a task tracker that we do, and the beauty of it is that you give it back to the FMCG companies and say that we've completed the task. The confidence that it builds for them to work with the retailer is even stronger. So that's been a beautiful use case, but we've also seen, we're doing POCs for range rationalization exercise, inventory optimization exercise with one of our partners, and that's a very exciting project that's currently happening, and we're also looking at what more can we do. So Choithrams has major investments into Omniscient, which is a retail media company. Yeah, Bounds is our own loyalty program. So how do we use the data that comes out of it, embed it on AI platforms, or build with AI into it to see how we can monetize so retail media or the personalization when it comes to loyalty. So these are things we are exploring right now, but it's a very exciting space.
No, thank you. And I think I already picked up a couple of use cases which you mentioned, including planogram and inventory optimization, where you're seeing already some business value coming from. Moving on to Ram, I think you come from retail, more on the fashion side, and also a lot of F&B experience where digital has actually already been very well adopted and used. How are you seeing the journey play out from digital, which is also automation in some level, to really the agentic AI world, where there is more action built in, more predictive intelligence built in, and some of the cool things that we discussed earlier would be good to touch upon.
First of all, thank you for having me here. And Kritika, I don't know how you found that I was a retail leader in my school, but anyway, that's great. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah.
Human in the loop. Intelligent human in the loop.
So, first of all, everybody was talking great about AI. AI is the next big thing, which is true. But also there is one thing which nobody actually talks about, which is always kept under the carpet, is how many businesses are actually really capable of or ready for implementing AI in a successful way. Because implementing a model just off the shelf is fairly simple. It's just an API call that you need to do. It's nothing major. But if you really want to implement AI, taking into consideration the ROI, it requires a lot of thought process into it, a lot of change management involved. It's not that simple, because you go and tell a guy tomorrow, like, oh, whatever work you are doing today is going to be replaced by an AI agent. He's not going to accept it. He will find 10,000 ways to actually reject it. So all these things come into play. And also the infrastructure, my God, like all these companies who have been like having these systems in place, like all the traditional players, right? I worked with a couple of traditional players. I've seen the tech stack that they have. It's impossible for you to even integrate something this nimble into that particular system. It's impossible. So there are multiple components which goes into it. That makes AI a difficult thing for the businesses to successfully implement. In fact, you can go and fact check also. Out of 100 projects that is getting done, not even 10 projects are successful in the market. That's how it is. And like even in our business, we actually like do a lot of experimentation. We try and like we fail, but we never launch it. In fact, agentic AI that you are talking about. So we actually did it in our call centers. So that was a pure business need that we noticed. What happened is like almost like 35% of the calls that come to our call centers are never even answered because the guys are already busy, and I cannot scale more people because that's cost to the company. And customer service is taking a hit on the other side. So the best way to do it is we found, or like we looked at the data, we understood like who are the people who are actually calling and what are they calling for. And we categorized it. So most of them are calling to actually follow up on their order. So this is something very simple to actually implement, right? Like you just connect your data set, live data set, to a bot, and you don't actually like use a public bot. Like you actually take a bot and put it in your own space, so that because it's customer data, right? He was asking about customer data being used. Yeah, like so you actually take a normal bot. You have like open source bots. You can actually host it in your particular AWS or like whichever cloud system that you're using. and then you can actually train them or like do the needful there. So that's exactly what we did. So we started doing it. Customers started getting better service. Our agents' pressure started going down. It's a win-win. Like they were like really happy because only when the agent is required, like actual human is required, that's when the call goes to them. So that's something that we did, which actually really showed a lot of value for the business.
Got it. No, and moving on to that, I think so. Early experimentation. Fair to say, everybody's in early experimentation mode. Some things seem to be working at scale. Needs to be figured out, at least in both the situations that you spoke about. How much of this is true automation versus building intelligence, right, into the intelligence and agency into the workflows, right, which is talking about, which means how much do you let loose? And in which use cases have you completely said, we are happy for the AI to actually even take decisions versus you necessarily need a human in the loop?
So for us, it's been too early to answer that, Siddharth, because we are still in that phase, the initial phase of, building it. And like any AI, it needs data and information. And retail, many other industries have gone way ahead in terms of implementing AI, to self-driving cars, to what the platforms can do. But when it comes to retail, and traditionally, there's so much of data, and again, I completely agree with Shriram in terms of the kind of data that we've been traditionally having in the system, and how much of it can be used and built into, taking it to the next level. It's still evolving, and even when we build it, the AI also needs a lot of reinforcement to say, is that right or wrong? So we still need to, get those scale to actually take the human element, further out of it and rely more on the AI, suggestions part of it. So it's too early at this point, if I could be, very candid about it. But again, it's advancing at a pace that for us, preparing ourselves is very, very important. Like having this dialogue here in this room, with so many like-minded people, itself was a great opportunity for us to take this to the next level. We have these conversations at our offices right now. We sit down, we discuss what next. What is it that, say, for example, HR has to do in terms of hiring the right people who understand it. So we work in a complete labor-intensive, industry. Imagine we work with generation X, Y, Z, coming in, and each of them have a different way they use data or even consume information and the pace at which they want, things to move. So with all these complexities, we still are learning in terms of how much and what pace do we go. And one thing is very, very clear. If you are running too fast on this AI journey, you suddenly feel like there's no scale, you don't have the right partners, you kind of are left out, you're like way ahead of the crowd. Or if you don't take that journey and you're saying, hey, let somebody else do it and fail and I'll wait, you're left out, you miss out on it. So what's that right pace that you should actually take your AI journey, your data cleanup, your people readiness, your partnering, right? And you need to think beyond the typical, like my data, my thing, to what does the industry need? What does partners like, many of you here, what is it that the right partner would be able to offer you? I think that's the journey all of us are taking. Pretty cautious, but I think we are in the right direction.
Got it. And Ram, in the series of businesses that you have dealt with, are you seeing any variability there? Any places where you're far more bullish about, where the change is happening and where you're not? Or are you still in saying experimental, we don't know, we'll deal with it when we get to it?
There are certain areas where you can happily experiment. When it comes to consumer facing, you need to be treading with caution. But like when it comes with your internal employees, for example, I will give you one good example. We all use Power BI, correct? We all use some sort of BI tool, right? So it's a lot of data, like not even 10% of the data is actually being seen. Especially at C level, it becomes much more difficult for them to go through pages of data or like chats and whatnot. So we actually built, or like we connected it to, let's say, an AI agent and fed it with data. So what it does is when you query it, asking for insights, it is impossible for a human to actually go through that level of regression and like finding connectedness between multiple factors. It actually does that. It brilliantly does it, and it tells you because of this on this particular store, this particular day, the sale happened. Like, so it goes to that level of accuracy, which is brilliant. Like that is one thing that we did. So internal employee facing products, yes, you can actually go very bullish. Consumer facing, do a lot of experimentation and then move, or else like if you shoot it once wrong, then you lose your face in front of your customers. That's one big problem there.
And since both of you are in the boat of, a lot of change management, etc., needs to happen, legacy organizations, legacy stack, legacy thinking, but the understanding that this needs to change is there. Maybe we'll actually pick on that a bit more since you both seem to be very keen, or at least in the same mindset. So, how does change management really happen here? Because if you go back 5, maybe 7 years to the digital transformation days, I think everybody had the same issues. Everybody knew digital transformation has to happen, but they were stuck with legacy teams, legacy organizations, or legacy mindsets. And the revenge of the mothership, as we used to call it, at least in the McKinsey days, was very strong, which means, existing teams are always going to resist this change. Is this something in the AI world also that you are facing, number one? And two, what are some of the things that have really are changing that approach? And I will delineate between leadership teams, which I think is probably the bigger issue usually, and the teams which are more on the user level and on ground. So what have been your learning so far?
Oh, okay, I can take it.
Excitement about this topic is always very high.
For us, you are right. Like every leaders, they actually want to implement AI right now. It's a fad, right? Like everybody is feeling very cool about using AI. Like they want AI, but they don't understand what is AI. It's purely a statistical model, as simple as that. So what we actually started doing is we started cleaning the data, setting the data infrastructure right. Because for you to have like a properly functioning AI model, you need to have your data properly like cleaned and organized in a way where like your models can actually pick it and use it. So that's the first project that we did, like try to place all the data in a way that like it is easy for anything and everything related to AI can be built on top of it. And in terms of people, so we have like a experimentation core group. So even inside our particular team, inside digital team, we have a team called Little Brown Bag Lunch team. So we actually have like a weekly meetings. We talk about things. We actually come up with ideas. So safe to fail experiments are conducted. We see whether it is working. We actually try to expose it to the internal employees and see how it works. Are they really getting excited, or are they actually like saying no? So you get to take a cue from all these people, and based on it, if they are really excited, we scale it. We try to go much deeper. If they say like no, we try to understand what's that no about, and then we take a decision on how to change it. That's how we do it.
Okay, so as I mentioned, AI had been, in our lives for quite some time, I guess, and though we don't call it an AI, like Google Maps, face recognition, I think the simple examples of AI being all around. So in terms of when we talk AI in our boardrooms or, in our meetings, many times people haven't really understood the scope of what AI is, right? It's beyond many times the understanding of, okay, what's AI? I mean, we've been using it. When we kind of deployed a simple tool to improve our expiry management in the store, we kind of built something in-house. It, in fact, was taking the data and building an algorithm and, getting a suggestion from the system and then implementing, and that saved us few millions in the last 2 years, yeah? It was an actual application of AI, but nobody called it AI at that time, yeah? Today, again, when I told you about, talking AI to different generations, yeah? The conversations are for real, and that's the road that all of us want to take. But again, with the way the data is, plus when we are approached by partners, yeah? Yeah, my colleague here was telling me the other day that the number of emails that we get from people ready to deploy AI at every level of your business and turn around your business are like, at least 10, 20 emails every day, I'm sure we would be getting from people who will say that, I'll tell you how to run your supermarket. It's like, guys, come on, yeah? But it's about understanding what is it that you need in your business, yeah? Rather than standalone solutions, what is it that integrated approach that can actually bring in elements of data scattered or, images and videos and, camera numbers, Excels, everywhere to actionable insights, yeah? One beautiful part of the POC that we are doing is a store operations assistant. So it kind of gives you a dashboard. You walk into a store and you ask any question on what is it that, so I walk into my store in Suffolk Park and it tells me on your top KPIs, this is where you stand. On this, it drills down to my 80-20. This is your 20% of the problem, which is actually impacting 80% of the business, and that's what you need to be looking at. Look at this category. It gives me the intelligent insights, actionable insights into how do I kind of make the best out of my visit to that store that day, rather than going and expecting my store manager to go run a report and come back on SAP or the Power BI and then talk about, no, it saves time, it makes it more efficient, it makes each visit, all of us add a little more value than what it previously used to be. So I think that's the beauty of it, and that's the journey we are taking, and that's for real. This is not something for future, this is something that we see it happening as I speak here. So I think that's what we are looking forward to.
Yeah, and thank you both for actually that, one last question and taking a cue from Dharmendra. What would your moonshot for AI and maybe agentic AI be in the next 6 months?
So 6 months is a short period for that particular thing, but what we wanted to actually build internally is just a model which can replace your store staff taking orders. So I used to work with Domino's, right? So we never wanted our store staff to actually go and take an order from you. Instead, imagine a screen wherein a customer can talk to the bot and it will understand exactly how a store staff would understand, and it would recommend much better than what that guy can recommend. And also it will ensure that the business is also in selling products or recommendations which actually maximizes the profit for the business, and also the customer's needs are met. And store staffs will not be replaced. They would actually be pushed into the role, similar to what Asan was saying, what they are supposed to do, where they will go and make pizzas. So that is one beautiful model that we are actually experimenting on and working on. The POC was done, and we need to actually look at how to scale it. That is a beautiful moonshot experimentation for me, because then it goes away from having an e-commerce site wherein you'll check all this. You just have this guy on your phone, you open the app, he's talking to you, and then that's it. You actually don't need an e-commerce app, you just need this app, and that's done.
And that's why I asked 6 months, I put a timeline to it, because it makes it far more realistic than really a moonshot. But
so for me, I'll go beyond operations and the day-to-day business. Okay, I'm in little into a different world altogether. I'm actually looking for me as well as my team, my leadership team, my shop floor staff, for a personal assistant. Simple. I'm looking for a personal assistant. And I'll tell you why, once I finish answering the first part of it, is when you wake up in the morning, I need somebody who could actually tell me how best, my next 8 hours, 10 hours at work can be most efficiently used. So it can be as simple as we the superhuman that we discussed about how to schedule a meeting and save those 3 minutes, to all the way telling me that what is it that in every aspect of my work, which I know that these are my, agenda for the day, in 6 months, in a year, that's the KPIs that we're driving. I mean, how do I best make the best out of the next 8 hours of my day? Because I wanted to literally shut down for a work-life balance. I want to literally shut down for some deep work. Because today, that stretches me out. And that's just when I say me, I'm kind of talking for all of you sitting there. I can see some smiles, especially from the ladies out there. You understand it? Yes, that's right. But imagine if that happens for every staff in your organization. You're able to literally release that time for investing into customer service, and what adds the human touch and value beyond the documentation work, the clerical stuff, the desk job, right? I mean, what could be done like this smartly with the IQ and, could be better, as the question that you asked, we can get that done so easily so that the EQ part is strengthened and make this whole world a more beautiful place for all of us, more creative, more fun. We travel, we work, we spend time with family. I think that's going to be a very, very beautiful thing to happen. Yeah.
Lovely. And I think a lot of us was actually smiling and nodding vigorously in terms of what that would be super helpful to us. What I've, just to summarize, at least for me, 3 things stood out. Number 1, early experimentation days, lots of experiments, positive experiments. So there is hope, particularly on the efficiency side of the game, more internal facing. Second thing was anything to do with consumers and customer experience is still a very tough thing to crack. At least that's because there's lots of things to be balanced, whether it is a brand, whether it is, getting it wrong, whether it is, even what amount of intelligence and insights are even available from a data standpoint and so on and so forth. I think that's the second thing, that consumer facing, customer experience things are the toughest battles to fight. The third one to me, which I think at least I've seen all the organizations go through, is the change management part is actually still the primary question to solve. It's not about the technology, it's not about the tools. There are dime a dozen 30 emails a day, tools which will come and say, we can do this, we can do that. Question is, whether the senior leaders have the vision and the gumption to actually push through, because some of these are actually very basic business decisions, not really technology decisions or of the like. With that, we'll open the floor up for any questions for both of you.
In fact, it's not a question, it's an observation, wherein you mentioned about the moonshot. 6 months, replace the store staff with something called AI chatbot kind of a thing. Let me narrate you with a small example from Emirates NBD Bank. You guys, anyone banking with them? Okay. They launched an AI chatbot called EVA. And 6 months back, they took it down. Because the insight said it resulted out as the biggest pain in ASS. So the customers revolted. Now, the basic insight was people still love to do business with people. So how do you think in your 6 months moonshot, you can replace the entire store staff?
See, that's a brilliant question. You need to understand the context there. A customer who is calling a bank is not calling because he wants to order a pizza. He's having a trouble with his financial bank account. And on top of it, if you're going to put him through an AI bot, he's going to really get mad. And that's exactly why they failed. Because they lost context of the problem that they were trying to solve. But when a customer is coming to place an order, he's more than willing and happy to actually experiment, play around. He's in a mood to play around. He's not actually going to be like, no, I want it in 2 minutes. No, he's not going to do that. He's just going to be more interested to understand how this system works. I have seen it. The reason why I told you about this is because we did a small pilot and we actually played around with it. And the feedbacks were really good. And that's why I said if I can scale it, because right now it's in a phase where it is in the building and I explained it also, right? When you're putting it in front of a customer, you get one shot to get it right. you cannot actually play around with it like how you do it with the internal employee. So you need to be very clear. There is something called a RAG, something called a knowledge base, which needs to be like properly designed. You have to put brand guardrails like Ishneet was talking about. So there are multiple things that you need to take into account in something like a customer-facing tool that you're building. So that's where like there will be a difference. It's all about context. It's not about like creating a bot. You need to know where to put it.
Actually, I need to explain something about this one, and especially depends on the cultural. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit disagree with you. Based on the experience which we have it in GCC, maybe it depends somehow on nationalities. Can you imagine McDonald's with all the technology and the mobile application at certain places in UAE, they have a poster that honk to order. They don't believe in the kiosk, in self-checkout. They don't believe in mobile application. And even at a certain point, they want to communicate with someone. So even if you go to the nearest, I think you can see it in near Sharjah Airport, you will see the poster where honk to order. Not only that, because we have a different omni-channels, we have a different websites where you see people, especially I'm Arabic guy, in Arabic culture or especially in GCC countries, they want to communicate. Even in websites, you will maybe get shocked. Some of the Arabic customers, they go and ask, they have in a banner, we have international delivery. They will ask you, do you deliver to Al Qiwain? Yeah, I do it. So they don't want they want a human interaction, and we tried many of the AI agent. It won't work. Maybe it will work with a different mindset. However, I think with Rehana, you are facing some in Choithrams. So people, they need people to communicate, and also it depends on the culture. Therefore, in many Arabic Asians, they would say, give me your manager. That's it. Yes.
So I totally agree, but I'll give you another scenario. I was just in Japan yesterday, and there's this concept called Soshiro. It came to the Dubai Expo in the Japanese pavilion. You interact with 0 humans when you go to that restaurant. Once you reach, you press for a table, it gives you a number, you go sit at that number, there's a huge tablet, you place orders, the food comes to you within 5 to 10 minutes maximum, and you order sushi is unlimited as long as you want it. Everything is done through AI. The whole experience is customized. Of course, if you want to speak to someone, you call for someone and they come and speak to you. But the need of speaking to someone is not needed anymore. Now, I totally agree. The Middle East, I'm Arab, I agree. We do want to speak to people. But that is changing. Now, looking at Gen Zs, yes, the old generations do like it. Gen Zs don't. Gen Zs are very limited. They want the most limited experience, because I deal with Gen Zs in this industry and the Arabs. They're into anime. They're into getting on their screen, turning off their lights in a dark room, watching anime, not speaking to anyone, not socializing. But that is becoming a new trend. AI is actually supporting that. It's bad in some aspects. That's why the line of AI is troublesome. But it's also very important to make sure we customize. If you go to the Dubai Mall McDonald's, they have the screens. And the number of people ordering through those screens versus through a person that's standing there is much higher. This is simple. Yes, in the classical Arabic cultures, they love the human experience. But it's also how we level up our AI. If we're going to go through an AI that's going to be replying to me with generic responses, I'm going to speak to a manager. I think that's everyone's case, right? So when you call Emirates NBD and the classical, I don't know, what Eva, yes, nightmare to talk to her. Like Intersalat has something like that right now. they removed it because people want to speak to someone. And as he mentioned, there is a concern that they want to resolve. So I think that's where it becomes the thing. But food and AI actually goes together very well. And I've seen it in Japan. This sushi chain has been all over Japan. Every 100 meters there's one. And it's doing amazing. Sometimes you have to wait lines up to 2 hours to get into it.
Good example, Nasir, but Japan as a country, the average aging, of the demographics is 55 years. So it's an aged country. So, you don't want when you go at the age of 60 to a restaurant, you don't want a 55-year-old auntie serving you. So, it's a different culture, as Faris said. It depends upon country to country and cultures to culture. And here in the Middle East, you still honk to want your kadak in the morning.
But the same concept came to the bus.
Yeah.
And it did amazing.
It did amazing?
In Expo, it was have to wait 3 hours to get into.
Is it the concept of cultures? Is it the concept of country? Or is it the concept of analyzing a human's need for another human? Because that itself is an AI solution for a taking, right? Analyze the human's EQ and need to interact with a human. Right?
If I may add, I think the context of, in food at least, I think if I'm in a fine dining restaurant and I get like a chatbot to speak to, I'm going to be annoyed. But in a QSR, I'm going to love it because I just want to get my food really fast. So that context is really important, is my input.
But you think you can get honking at the restaurant for your kadak chai or a McDonald's?
That's not for me. I think it's a generational.
Sorry, I think there's one more question or comment.
So, I'm not an anti-evangelist of AI, but in today's scenario, what I've seen is AI is mostly based on a want or a need. Some of the industries it needs, some of the industries it's a want. Now, let's come to the traditional form of retail here. Choithrams being one of them. I'll take example, if you don't mind, Choithrams, one of the traditional retail.
51 years
51,
young.
Exactly. So I didn't want to mention the age, but.
Young.
So normally, especially in retail, when the margins are being squeezed at this point of time, the spend becomes resistant from the top to the bottom, right? Now, the ROI is always perceived in different ways in different industries. Now, when it comes to retail, how do you manage or prioritize the spend when it comes to AI? Because the returns, because in retail specifically, when every dollar spent is quantified based on the returns in a short term, how do you prioritize the spend for AI when the spend itself is considered luxurious, at least at this point of time?
So we have use cases, of course, which has a direct link to the ROI we talk about. For example, it's the labor cost that goes down. Like if I have a checklist that runs from all store managers have to do it, and if somebody has to go through all those images that get captured and check if, is that compliant with what is expected, I'm taking that person out of the role. So there is a labor cost, impact, which we kind of measure when we deploy an AI tool or, build it on top of one of our services, that platforms we have. Apart from that, shrinkage optimization, yeah? So AI cameras being used at self-checkouts to prevent, pilferage. That's another case that we have. Retail media monetization, another one. When we say that a customer has kind of touched that product or Googled that product or searched that product on choithrams.com, and we're kind of showing them a different product, a complementary product, and then if brands are ready to pay for it, and that's how you kind of monetize it, yeah? Even brands would actually tie up with the retailer on the retail media, and that's actually, so these are very clear ROI-driven, cases. But beyond that is also what we are looking at, the efficiencies that we build into it. Yeah, so I think when a partner pitches for with an AI tool, I think you should not just talk about the monetary part of it. It should also talk about what value does it add beyond this as well. So that's what we feel would work.
And adding on to that, like one beautiful use case which Walmart did, which is very successful for them, is the velocity of inventory that they actually hold, right? Even Tesco for that matter, like these guys follow continuous replenishment in their supply chain. So AI actually helped them in optimizing the inventory holding cost. It actually reduced it by a massive number. So the project in itself paid for the costs involved in the AI models. For example, Ishneet, for her, like she was talking about predicting a particular demand in a particular area and sending it in bulk. So it's an optimization of their supply chain, and it saves a lot of cost rather than sending one piece every time she gets an order. So these are like areas where like retailers are currently making a lot of progress. Zara, for that matter, in terms of trend analysis, in terms of reordering their modules for vertical integration. All these are like classic examples which are very, very successful in the market.
So looks like no further questions, at least for now, but we move this interesting topic outside, after this discussion.
Yes. Yes, you have it from me. Done. Who's ready to partner here? Yes? We already have a customer.
So I think here's where we are. And I'm not boasting. Find has the answer. We've created a chat agent. We wanted to showcase it, but because Retail Remix is not salesy. But there is a solution. We'll probably reveal it tomorrow. And there are two parts of this. One is the company's moonshot, which is Raju, which we'll learn more about. Raju is exactly what you're talking about.
The PA.
The PA. But we also have one that I'm working on. It's called Ramlal. Now, Ramlal is the quintessential Man Friday from the movie Sholay. For context, for people who are not from the Indian background, this is a movie, a story, where there's a person who's lost both his arms, and he's a Man Friday who does everything for him. So this is called Ramlal, where you can actually live hands-free, because Thakur lived hands-free, and you are able to kind of get all your work done. And we are using it right now for learning, as a learning app within Find, where new joiners who are not technical, who are not engineers, but want to understand what want to go through in 4 weeks of learning technical subjects. I think Ramlal is going to be their guide and mentor. So 2 bots coming soon, but Raju is like the big one. We'll reveal it maybe over the next 2 weeks or so. Of course.
That's great. No, can I just close with a trivia? Yeah. So I was driving down, and on the radio, the news was on, and it actually talked about a country called Angola. Yeah. Heard it? Yeah. Not Angola. So it's Angola. It's like a British territory in the Caribbean or something. Yeah. So what was on the news today is maybe somebody made money out of AI for sure. So the country has a internet domain, country domain, AI. And it made $40 million very recently selling that domain. Yeah. So somebody's really made money as well. Yeah, on AI. Yeah, it's just not that you don't have money.
The only case of real monetization.
Real monetization.
No, but thank you. Thanks both of you to actually, join.